The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor of the Rainbow Room like a gunshot in a cathedral, silencing the jazz band's sultry saxophone mid-note. "I love you, Alex," Kevin said, his voice cutting through the stunned murmurs like a knife through silk, his hand still lingering on the shoulder of the tall, broad-shouldered stranger who'd been our best man. And just like that, in front of 200 guests, our families, our friends, the glittering skyline of Manhattan twinkling indifferently beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, my world cracked open, spilling every dream I dared to build with him onto the cold, unforgiving tiles. I froze there, mid-laugh, my arm still looped through Kevin's as we posed for the photographer moments before, the ring on my finger, platinum, engraved with "Forever Starts Here," suddenly feeling like a noose. The room spun in a haze of crystal chandeliers and half-empty flutes, the air thick with the scent of orchids and betrayal. Kevin's eyes, those hazel pools I drowned in for 3 years, flicked to mine for a split second, pleading, almost sorry, before he turned back to Alex, the man who'd flown in from Seattle just for our engagement party. "God, I've wanted to say it for months," Kevin continued, his voice gaining strength from the shock it unleashed, like a dam bursting after a storm. Guests gasped. My mother clutched her pearls. And Brian me, stood there, a ghost in my own celebration, the weight of Fiancé evaporating like morning fog over the Hudson. How did we get here? 3 years ago, under the relentless California sun, Kevin and I had collided in a way that felt scripted by some rom-com god with a twisted sense of humor. I was 25, fresh out of UCLA film school, hustling as a production assistant on a low-budget indie flick in Los Angeles. My days blurred into nights of fetching coffee for diva directors and dodging advances from co-stars who thought aspiring filmmaker meant easy lay. I was out and proud. Sure, rainbow stickers on my laptop, Grindr notifications silenced but not deleted, but love? That was for the scripts I wrote in stolen moments. Stories of boys who found each other against all odds. Not for a kid from a sleepy suburb in Ohio who'd traded cornfields for palm trees and still woke up some mornings wondering if he'd made the right call. Kevin was the cinematographer, 30, with that effortless cool that comes from growing up in the valley, surfing Malibu at dawn and crashing Hollywood parties by night. He had this laugh, deep, rumbling like thunder rolling in from the Pacific, that could disarm anyone, and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, making you feel like the only person in the frame. We met on set during a grueling night shoot in the Hollywood Hills, the kind where the fog rolls in thick and the gaffers curse under their breath. I was hauling cables, sweat soaking my tank top, when he appeared out of the mist like a scene from one of my scripts. Camera slung over his shoulder, flannel unbuttoned just enough to show the tattoo of a compass rose peeking from his chest hair. "Hey, newbie," he'd called, his voice laced with that SoCal drawl that made everything sound like an invitation. "You gonna stand there gawking, or help me rack focus before the director loses his shit?" I tripped over a sandbag, nearly face-planting into the dirt, and he caught my elbow, steadying me with a grin that lit up the sodium lamps. "Easy, Tiger. Name's Kevin." "And you are, Brian," I mumbled, my cheeks burning hotter than the key lights. From that moment, it was electric, stolen glances across the set, late-night tacos from a truck on Sunset, him teaching me how to frame a shot so the light caught the vulnerability in someone's eyes. By wrap party, we'd kissed under the Griffith Observatory, the city sprawling below us like a lover's promise. "You're it for me, Bree," he'd whispered against my lips, his hands framing my face as if I were the shot he'd been chasing his whole career. No more auditions. You're the lead. We moved in together 2 months later. A cramped one-bedroom in Silver Lake with leaky faucets and a balcony overlooking the reservoir. Mornings were coffee brewed black and scripts read aloud over scrambled eggs. Nights were tangled sheets and whispers about the future. His dream of shooting a feature in the Rockies. My pitch for a queer coming-of-age story that he'd swear would win Oscars. But LA has a way of grinding dreams into dust. Kevin's gigs dried up after a string of flops. Mine weren't much better, bouncing between PA jobs that paid in exposure and ramen. We fought about money, about ambition, about the way he'd scroll through his phone during dinner, eyes distant like he was framing shots in his head that didn't include me. It's just stress, babe, he'd say, pulling me close, his stubble rough against my neck. You're my anchor, and I'd believe him, because when he looked at me like that, with the city lights painting gold across his skin, I felt anchored solid, seen, loved in a way that made the world make sense. We decided to chase the dream eastward, to New York, where the streets pulsed with possibility and the theater district hummed with stories waiting to be told. I sold my beat-up Civic. He pawned his vintage lenses, and we packed 2 suitcases and a cat named Indy into a U-Haul, crossing the country in a blur of dive motels and diner pie. This is our origin story, Kevin joked as we crested the George Washington Bridge, the skyline rising like a jagged crown. From beach bums to Broadway bound, we crashed on a friend's couch in Brooklyn, then scored a walk-up in Hell's Kitchen, tiny, overpriced, with sirens as our lullaby. I landed a gig assisting on a Netflix series about drag queens. He networked at film fests, his charm opening doors I could only dream of. That's where Alex came in, or at least, where he re-entered. Kevin's old college roommate from USC, the golden boy who'd gone pro as a producer in Seattle, always texting about the next big thing. They'd been thick as thieves back in the day, road trips to Big Sur, keg stands at frat parties, but I'd never met him until Kevin invited him to our engagement party. He's family, Kevin said, casual as pouring coffee. Plus, he might have leads on that queer horror script you're dying to direct. I shrugged it off. Jealousy wasn't my style. Not then. The proposal had been perfect, straight out of a Nora Ephron flick. Last summer, on the rooftop of our building, with the Empire State Building glowing like a beacon, Kevin dropped to one knee amid fairy lights and takeout from Joe's Pizza. Brian Ellis, you focused my lens, lit up my frames, and made every take worth the rush, he'd said, the ring box trembling in his hand. Marry me? Tears blurred the view as I said yes, our kiss sealing it against the summer stars. We planned the party for fall, intimate, upscale, at the Rainbow Room, because why not celebrate our rainbow in the heart of the Rainbow City? Now, as the shards of glass glittered like fallen stars at my feet, the room erupted into chaos. My sister rushed forward, her heels clicking sharply. Brian, honey, but I waved her off, my throat closing like a trapdoor. Kevin stepped toward me, Alex forgotten for a beat, his face pale under the chandeliers. Bree, wait, it's not. But what? Not what it looked like. Not real. I yanked the ring from my finger, the metal warm from my skin, and pressed it into his palm. Keep it, I whispered, my voice steady in a way that surprised even me. Frame it. Or give it to him. I don't care anymore. I turned, weaving through the crowd, apologies blurring into white noise, hands brushing my arms like ghosts, and pushed through the heavy doors into the hallway. The elevator ride down was eternal, the mirrored walls reflecting a man I barely recognized. Eyes red-rimmed, tie askew, heart hammering like a bass drum in an empty theater. The lobby spat me out onto 30 Rockefeller Plaza, the November chill slapping my face like a wake-up call. Taxis honked. Tourists milled under the Prometheus statue, oblivious to the wreckage I'd just escaped. I walked, blocks blurring into a numb haze, until I hit Times Square, the billboards screaming ads for shows I'd never see, lights flashing like accusations. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a dozen texts lighting up the screen. Mom asking if it was a joke. My best friend Jax demanding details. Kevin's name flashing like a siren. Please, call me. I can explain. Explain? What words could stitch this back? I powered it off, shoving it deep into my jacket, and kept walking, the city's pulse syncing with my own fractured rhythm. Rain started then, a fine mist turning to sheets, soaking through my shirt, but I didn't stop. Not until I reached the Hudson, the water black and churning under the Brooklyn Bridge, mirroring the storm inside me. That night, I checked into a Fleabag motel in Jersey, the kind with flickering neon and stains on the carpet that told stories no one wanted to hear. I stripped off my tux, the fabric heavy with the scent of champagne and lies, and curled under threadbare sheets, Indy's absence a fresh ache. Sleep came in fits, dreams of Kevin's hands on me twisted with Alex's shadow, waking me gasping into the dark. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, the ferry horns moaning across the river like a dirge for what was lost. But loss, I'd learn, isn't the end of the reel, it's the cut to black before the next scene flickers to life. Waking up in that Jersey motel felt like surfacing from a dive too deep, lungs burning, the world above a distorted shimmer. The clock on the nightstand blinked 7:14 a.m., the digital numbers mocking my red-eyed reflection in the cracked mirror. I splashed water on my face from the faucet that sputtered brown at first, then clear, and stared at the stranger staring back, stubble shadowing my jaw, hair matted like I'd been caught in a gale. Brian Ellis, aspiring director, jilted fiancé reduced to this, a sodden extra in his own tragedy. My wallet held $40 and a credit card maxed from party deposits. My phone, when I dared power it on, overflowed with voicemails, Kevin's voice cracking on the third. Bree, God, I'm so sorry. Meet me at the apartment? Please, delete. Jax's Brooklyn bark. Get your ass to my place. Now. We'll plot revenge over bagels. Tempting, but not yet. I needed air. Space to breathe without the city's claws digging in. Hailing a cab back to Manhattan felt like defeat, so I walked the PATH train instead, the underground rumble vibrating through my bones like aftershocks. Emerging in the village, the streets hummed with Sunday brunch crowds, couples linking arms outside Jack's wife Frida, dogs on leashes sniffing the crisp air. The stung, that normalcy, a reminder of the life I'd almost had. Our apartment waited in Hell's Kitchen, a fifth-floor walk-up with creaky stairs and a view of the Port Authority bus terminal that Kevin swore was character building. I climbed them slow, key turning in the lock like a confession. Inside, it hit like a gut punch. The string lights still twinkled from last night's packing frenzy. Half-filled boxes labeled kitchen, and his clothes in my neat print. Indy's litter box sat empty in the corner, her toys scattered like forgotten props. Kevin's side of the closet gaped open, suits and flannels rumpled from hasty choices, but his favorite leather jacket hung there, the one I'd gifted him for his birthday, smelling faintly of his cologne, sandalwood, and sea salt. I sank onto the bed, the duvet still rumpled from our last morning together, lazy kisses turning to promises whispered against skin. "After the party," he'd murmured, tracing the freckles on my chest, "we'll book that cabin in the Catskills. Just us. No scripts. No sets. Lies. All of it, or half-truths twisted into knots." The door buzzer shattered the quiet, insistent, angry. I knew it was him before the intercom crackled. "Bree, it's me. Let me up." My thumb hovered over the button, heart slamming against ribs. Part of me, the part that remembered his laugh in the waves, his hand steady on my knee during bad editions, wanted to buzz him in, let the words spill and maybe salvage something from the shards. But the other part, raw and roaring, hit the silence button and backed away. "Go away, Kev," I called through the wood, voice muffled but firm. "I can't. Not now. Brian. Please." It was the champagne. The pressure. "Alex. He's just..." His words choked off, a thud against the door like his forehead pressing there. I could picture it. That boyish slump of his shoulders, the way his hair fell over his eyes when he was cornered. "I love you. You know that. This was a mistake. Stupid. Drunk mistake. In front of everyone. Our families." The words tore out sharper than I meant, laced with the venom I'd bottled since the shatter. "You looked at him like he hung the moon, Kevin. Like I'd never even been in your sky." Silence stretched, thick as fog, then a sigh that echoed my own defeat. "I need time," I said softer, sliding down the door to sit on the cool hardwood. "To figure out what the hell this means." Footsteps retreated, slow and heavy, the outer door clicking shut like a period at the end of a sentence. I stayed there until my legs cramped, tears tracking silent paths down my cheeks, pooling on the floor. When I finally rose, it was to pack, not everything, just enough to ghost. A duffel with jeans, tees, my laptop, and the script binder I'd carried since film school. Indy's carrier went over my shoulder, her mules a small comfort as I scooped her up, purring betrayal into my neck. The lease was in both our names, but sublets in NYC were a sucker's game. I'd crash with Jax until the dust settled. Jax lived in a Bushwick warehouse loft, the kind of place that screamed, struggling artist, exposed brick, mismatched furniture, and a wall of Polaroids from our UCLA days. He yanked the door open before I could knock, his dyed blue hair tousled from sleep, arms enveloping me in a bear hug that smelled of weed and last night's takeout. "Jesus, Bree, you look like you got hit by a truck." Over greasy bacon egg cheese on bodega bagels. I spilled it all, the proposal magic, the party glamour, the shatter. Jax listened, feet kicked up on his coffee table cluttered with script pages and empty Red Bull cans, his dark eyes narrowing at Kevin's name. That fucker. I always knew he had wandering eyes. Remember that PA on the zombie flick? The one with the abs? I laughed, bitter and broken, the sound foreign in my throat. "Yeah. Well, abs won this round." We spent the day binging old rom-coms, When Harry Met Sally. 'Cause fuck it. Irony was my new middle name, Indy batting at the remote like she sensed the mood. Night fell with texts from Mom. "Call me, sweetheart. We're here." Dad's gruff. "Proud of you, son. Whatever you need." Kevin's escalated to emails, long and looping. I met Alex at a low point after that Sundance rejection. He listened, made me feel. alive again. But it was you. Always you. I archived them unread, the words blurring into noise. By week 2, the city started to breathe again. Not easy, but possible. I threw myself into work. The Netflix set a whirlwind of drag transformations and heartfelt monologues that mirrored my own mess. My boss, a fierce queen named Lena with sequins for days, pulled me aside after a 12-hour day. Darling, you're lighting notes? Gold. But that cloud over your pretty head? Storm's gotta pass. She slipped me a card for a queer support group in Chelsea. No bullshit. Just real talk. I went, hesitant, to a basement room in a community center, folding chair creaking under me as a circle of faces. Tattooed twinks, silver fox daddies, trans elders shared scars. Betrayal's a bitch, one guy said, his voice gravel from years of smokes and screams. But it don't define the real. You get to recut. Stuck. That line, echoing as I navigated the fallout. Kevin showed up at the set one rainy Tuesday, flowers wilting in his fist, eyes hollowed like he'd aged a decade. Security waved him through, my doing, a lingering softness, and we faced off in the catering tent, the smell of craft services tacos turning my stomach. I ended it with Alex, he said, voice low, urgent. Flew him back that night. It was a fantasy, Brie, a what-if from college that I stupidly chased when things got hard here. But you're my reality. My home. I wanted to believe him. God. I did, the way his fingers brushed mine. Tentative. Like testing a live wire. Flashes. Our first road trip to Joshua Tree. Stars blanketing the desert as we made love in the truck bed. The night I bombed an audition. And he drove us to Coney Island at 2 a.m. Cotton candy melting on our tongues as he called me his star. Why him? I asked, the question a knife's edge. Why now? He deflated, shoulders caving. Pressure. The move, the job's not panning out, felt like I was failing us. Alex texted, old times, and it snowballed. Stupid, selfish. But I swear, Brie, it's over. Come home, home. The word hung, tempting, a siren's call. We talked for hours, words tumbling like exposed film, his insecurities, my fears of not being enough, the city's grind wearing us thin. By dusk, I let him kiss me, soft and seeking, his tears salt on my lips. One more chance, I whispered, hating the plea in my voice. But no more secrets. We're in every frame, Kev. Together, we tried. God, we tried. Mornings rebuilt with awkward coffees and tentative touches. Nights with therapy apps and date nights at dim sum spots in Chinatown. He deleted contacts, shared passwords. I forgave, or tried to, burying the hurt under layers of us. The script I'd been nursing. A tale of two directors falling in love on a haunted film set. Gained traction. A producer from Sundance emailing interest. See, Kevin grinned over Thai basil chicken at our kitchen table. We're unstoppable, but cracks spiderwebbed beneath the surface. I catch him staring at his phone, thumb hovering. He'd flinch at mentions of Seattle. Trust, fragile as celluloid, frayed with every unspoken doubt. And then, the holidays loomed, Thanksgiving with my folks in Ohio, Christmas in his family's Vineyard Haven manse. It'll be good, he promised, packing his duffel. Fresh start, I nodded, but as the train pulled away from Penn Station, Indy purring in my lap. A whisper nagged. Was it? The Ellis family farmhouse in rural Ohio hadn't changed since I was a kid. White clapboard siding peeling at the edges. The wraparound porch sagging under the weight of too many Thanksgivings. Mom's pumpkin pie cooled on the windowsill, cinnamon steam curling like a memory, while Dad manned the grill out back, smoke signals rising against the November gray. My sister, Ellie, 8 months pregnant and glowing, waddled over with a hug that smelled of lavender and baby powder. Heard about the drama, she murmured, eyes twinkling. You okay, little bro? I forced a smile, juggling Indy's carrier and a bottle of Pinot. Peachy. Where's the pie? Kevin fit in like he'd been born to plaid shirts and football on the den TV. Charming mom with stories of LA sunsets and dad with tales of fly fishing in the Sierras. Brian's the real talent, he'd say, arms slung casual over my shoulders, his warmth a balm on old wounds. Dinners stretched long, laughter echoing off knotty pine walls, the betrayal a ghost we'd both agreed to exorcise. That night, in the guest room with its quilted bed and creaky floorboards, he pulled me close under the covers, his breath hot against my ear. This feels right, he whispered, hands mapping familiar paths. You, me, family. No more bullshit. I melted into him, chasing oblivion in the dark, believing for a heartbeat that we'd rewritten the script. But Ohio's quiet amplified the doubts, the what-ifs whispering louder than the wind through the cornstalk stubble. On Black Friday, while Kevin and Dad bonded over tackle at the local bait shop, I drove to the lake alone, the one where Ellie and I used to skip stones as kids. The water lapped gray and restless, mirroring the churn in my gut. My phone buzzed Jax, forwarding a link, a Seattle film blog, blurry photo of Kevin and Alex at a rooftop bar last month. Arms slung, grins wide. Caption: Reunited and it feels so good? USC alums heat up the scene. My thumb trembled. It was before the party, a business drinks he'd sworn were platonic. I deleted it, but the seed rooted, thorny and insistent. Back home, Kevin sensed the shift, his eyes searching mine over pie a la mode. What's eating you, Bree? I shrugged it off, just homesick. But that night, in the guest room's hush, I confronted him, voice low to not wake the house. Saw the photo. Seattle. You said it was nothing. His face crumpled, guilt etching lines I'd never noticed before. It was a drink. One night. He pushed. I pulled back. Swear on everything. We argued in whispers, accusations slicing soft but sharp, ending in exhausted silence. I love you, he repeated, like a mantra, pulling me into his chest. I let him, but sleep evaded, the quilt a tangle of unspoken fears. Christmas in Vineyard Haven was a different beast. Kevin's world, all salt air and shingled estates, his parents sprawling Victorian overlooking the Sound. His mom, a waspy vision in cashmere, air-kissed my cheeks with darling, so brave after that horrid party. While his dad, a hedge fund titan with a handshake like iron, clapped my back and poured scotch. Boys like you too? Future of the family biz. Films where the real money's at. Kevin beamed. Our engagement ring back on my finger like a truce flag, but the opulence chafed, a reminder of the chasms between us. My Midwest grit versus his coastal polish, my indie dreams against his climbing ambitions. New Year's Eve sealed the fracture. We joined his college crew at a soiree in Boston, the Charles River glittering under fireworks, champagne flutes clinking in a penthouse pulsing with bass. Alex was there, uninvited, or so Kevin claimed, tall and tailored. His smile a shark's flash as he pulled Kevin into a bro hug that lingered too long. "Missed you, man," Alex drawled, eyes flicking to me with polite poison. I excused myself to the balcony, the winter wind whipping my scarf, city lights blurring through unshed tears. Kevin found me there, apology in his stance. He's leaving tomorrow. For good. Ignore him, but ignoring became impossible when, at midnight, as confetti rained and lips met in promise, I caught them, Kevin and Alex, in the shadowed corner of the study, a stolen kiss that lasted 3 heartbeats too long. The countdown roared outside. 10, 9, 8 but inside, time stopped, my world tilting like a bad take. I backed away, unseen, the door clicking shut on the scene like a slate marking cut. The train back to New York was a blur of silent miles. Kevin dozing against my shoulder, oblivious or feigning. I stared out at the snowy Berkshires, resolve hardening like frost. By Penn Station, with its holiday throng and echoing announcements, I drafted the email in my head. Clean break, no drama. But he beat me to words, over diner eggs at 3 a.m. "I saw you see," he said flat, fork pushing hash browns. "It wasn't. Save it." My voice cracked, but held. "I can't keep recutting this, Kev. Every frame's tainted now." He reached for my hand. I pulled back, the ring sliding off like a shed skin. "Go to him. Or don't. But I'm done being the understudy." He begged, tears, promises, the full reel of remorse, but I was already packing in my mind, the apartment's lease a noose I'd slip. Jax's loft became semi-permanent, his couch a throne of solidarity, Indy claiming a windowsill perch overlooking the L train's rattle. Work ramped up. Lena promoted me to associate producer, her drag wisdom a lifeline. "Honey, loves a scene, not the whole picture. Direct your own damn arc." Spring thawed the city, cherry blossoms dusting Washington Square like confetti from a party I hadn't crashed. I dove into the script, now titled Cut to Black, pouring the hurt into pages of 2 lovers haunted by ghosts on a noir set, their passion flickering against betrayal's shadows. Readings at queer open mics in the village drew crowds, claps echoing my quiet victories. Dates? Tentative. A barista with a poet's soul, an actor with laugh lines, but none stuck. My heart still raw, a negative waiting for light. Then, the call came, Sundance acceptance. My script, greenlit for a short, budget scraped from crowdfunding and Lena's Rolodex. "You're a force, Ellis," the programmer said, voice crackling over the line. "Can't wait to see it unspool." Kevin heard through the grapevine, showing up at a cast read-through in a Soho theater, flowers in hand, eyes hopeful. "Proud of you, Bree." "Always was." I nodded, polite distance my armor. "Thanks. Good luck with everything." He lingered after, as actors filed out into the drizzle. "Alex and I, it's done. For real. I fucked up, lost the best thing. But if there's any, no." The word was a release. Final cut. "Write your own story, Kev. This one's mine." As he left, the rain easing to mist, I stepped into the street, script under arm, the city's hum a soundtrack to rebirth. But Sundance loomed, a proving ground, and with it, whispers of investors, including one from Seattle. Fate's cruel joke? Or the universe's nudge toward closure? Park City in January was a fever dream of snow-dusted peaks and indie fervor. The Sundance Film Festival transforming the sleepy Utah town into a labyrinth of screenings, schmoozes, and secrets swapped over spiked cocoa. I arrived solo, duffel slung over shoulder. Indy boarded back in Brooklyn with Jax's neighbor, a burly dyke with a soft spot for strays. The flight from JFK had been turbulent, mirroring the knot in my chest. But touchdown brought clarity. This was my shot, untainted by Kevin's shadow. No fiancé, no fallout, just Brian Ellis, director, stepping into the light. The short film premiered in a mid-sized theater on Main Street, the Egyptian-style marquee glowing against the blue twilight. Cut to black, unspooled to a packed house. 80 minutes of celluloid poetry. Two men, lovers, rivals, chasing truth through fog-shrouded lenses. Their kisses electric, betrayals visceral. Gasps rippled at the twist, the public confession echoing too close to home. Applause thundered at fade out, my name scrolling credits like a vindication. Q&A afterward was a blur. Praise for the raw emotion, questions on influences, personal, mostly. Lena, flown in for moral support, squeezed my hand under the table. Told you, darling. Oscar bait. The after-party at a slopeside lodge buzzed with Type A dreamers. Sundance virgins pitching pilots, veterans nursing grudges over craft IPAs. I nursed a gin and tonic, the ice melting slow as conversation swirled, compliments on the film's visceral heartbreak, invites to panels on queer narratives. That's when he approached, mid-30s, salt and pepper beard framing a smile that crinkled kind eyes, wool sweater hugging a frame built for hikes, not Hollywood. Powerful stuff, he said, extending a hand warm from his mug. I'm Nate. Produced that doc on the Stonewall Vets last year. Nate Harlan, turned out, was Seattle-based, a quiet force in indie queer cinema, features on trans elders in Appalachia, shorts on rural coming-outs. We talked for hours, the lodge's fire crackling as backdrop, his laugh easy, probing questions drawing out my Ohio roots, my LA grind, the script's genesis without prying into the gore. Betrayal's universal, he said. I steady. But so's redemption. Your leads, they find it, in the end, subtle, but it landed, a bridge over my chasm. Over festival days, Nate became a constant. Coffee runs to Java Cow, lifts on the shuttle to the Yarrow for screenings, his battered Subaru smelling of pine air freshener and old film reels. He shared stories, his own divorce from a high school sweetheart who'd come out late, the solace of directing his first feature in the Cascades. Nature heals, he'd say, gesturing to the snow-globed Wasatch. Strips it down to essentials. I opened up too, in fits. The proposals glow, the parties shatter, Kevin's pleas. Hurts like hell, I admitted one night, post-screening of his doc. Stars pricking the velvet sky as we trudged back to the Marriott. But the film's out there. Feels free. He stopped, breath fogging the air, hand light on my arm. You are free, Brian. Don't let one bad cut define the director. His touch lingered, electric without demand, and when our eyes met, something shifted, a frame locking into focus. That night, in my room's dim lamplight, we kissed, tentative at first, then deep, his beard soft against my skin, hands gentle as if handling fragile stock. No rush, no scripts, just two men, scarred and seeking, Finding warmth in the cold. Sundance blurred into triumph. Cut to black snagged the jury prize for short narrative. My acceptance speech. To the loves that break us, and the ones that remake us. Drawing cheers and a standing ovation. Nate was there. Front row. His grin brighter than the spotlights. Post-win brunch at Riverhorse. Agents circled like hawks. Offers for features. A book deal for the making of. Kevin's email pinged amid the chaos. Watched the live stream. You deserved it. I'm happy for you. I archived it. Nate's knee brushing mine under the table, a quieter truth. But closure waited in the wings. Back in New York. February slush turning to March thaw. A package arrived at the loft. Kevin's leather jacket. Folded neat with a note. Keep it. Or burn it. Yours always. I donated it to a shelter. The act a ritual. Then dove into pre-pro on a feature adaptation. Nate's production company co-signing the budget. Visits blurred state lines. Him in Brooklyn for location scouts. Me in Seattle for pitch meets. Our rhythm syncing like a well-cut montage. Lazy Sundays in his queen and row house. Hikes in Discovery Park where he'd point out orcapods. Nights tangled in flannel sheets. His whispers steadying my pulse. Yet doubt nipped at heels. One rainy April evening. Post-table read in a midtown conference room. My phone lit with a New York Post blurb. Jilted fiancé's Sundance glory. Brian Ellis turns heartbreak to gold. Buried in the fluff. A quote from an anonymous source. Kevin? He always was the star. I just dimmed his light. Rage flared. Hot and familiar. But Nate, waiting curbside with an umbrella, pulled me into the cab. Talk to me. Over Ty in his hotel. I vented the possessiveness, the lingering claim. It's not love if it cages, he said, thumb tracing my knuckles. You're soaring, Bree. Let him ground out. The confrontation came unbidden. A chance encounter at a Tribeca Fest mixer. Kevin, leaner. I shadowed, nursing a scotch at the bar. Hey, he said, voice small. Heard about the prize. Knew you'd kill it. Politeness warred with pain. I nodded, sipping my seltzer. Thanks. Doing good. Awkward beats. Then, Nate, right? The producer. From a mutual contact. Casual. But his jaw tightened. Yeah. He's solid. The old fire flickered, jealousy. Accusation, but I doused it. We both deserve solid. Kev. No more cuts. He nodded, swallowing hard. I get it. Alex was a mistake. Multiple, stupid ones. Therapy's helping. But you're light years. We parted with a hug. Brief, brotherly, the bar's din swallowing goodbyes. Outside, Nate waited. No questions. Just his hand in mine as we walked to the F train. The city's pulse our anthem. Summer bloomed fierce. Production ramping. Location shoots in the Hudson Valley. Cast table reads echoing with chemistry. Nate and I navigated the merge. His Seattle roots pulling. My New York grind anchoring. Weekends split between coasts. Calls at dawn syncing schedules. This could be it, he'd say over FaceTime. His bedhead endearing. Us. The film. The life. I believed him. The hurt from Kevin a scar. Not a wound. Fading under new light. But climax brewed in the edit bay. July heat wave turning the Astoria suite into a sweatbox. Dailies played on loops. Passionate scenes mirroring my own guarded heart. And one night, alone with reels, the door knocked. Kevin, unannounced, takeout bags in hand. Heard you're cutting here. Thought. Peace offering. We ate lo mein on the floor. Talking shop. His new gig DPING, a web series. My fears of the feature flopping. Wine loosened tongues. Old sparks crackled. His hand on my knee, a question. Don't, I said, but leaned in. The kiss a relapse, familiar, forbidden. Guilt crashed post-climax. Nate's flight landing at JFK hours later. I confessed over airport coffee. Words tumbling raw. It was nothing, closure. Maybe, but wrong. God, Nate, you're everything. His face shuddered. Pain flashing before resolve. Trusts earned. Brian. You know that better than most. He boarded for Seattle. Door ajar but not slammed. Call when you're sure. Alone again. The city a mocking mirror. I walked the High Line at midnight. Rails humming underfoot. Lights strung like regrets. Betrayal's echo, mine now, demanded reckoning. The film wrapped. Premiere whispers building. But personal reels tangled. Kevin's pull. Nate's pause. My own fractured focus. August scorched New York into submission. The asphalt shimmering like a bad practical effect. But the Tribeca premiere cooled it all, sold-out house at the Beacon. Red carpet flashes popping like gunfire. Cut to black. The feature unspooled to gasps and sniffles. Expanded arcs. Deeper dives into the lover's hauntings. A climax of public unraveling that drew uneasy laughs from those who'd whispered about my own. Standing ovations stretched 2 minutes. Critics' quotes already buzzing. Ellis captures queer fragility with unflinching grace. Nate was there. Flown in quiet. His presence a steady in the afterglow swirl. Hugs from Lena. Toasts with the cast. His hand brushing mine in the crush. A truce unspoken. Post-screening reception at a Soho loft pulsed with validation. Agents pitching deals. Streamers circling rights. A bidding war igniting over oysters and roes. Kevin cornered me by the charcuterie. Eyes earnest under string lights. Incredible, Brie. You nailed the pain, made it art. Gratitude warred with wariness. I clinked his glass. Thanks. Means a lot. He lingered. Words tumbling. Seeing it. Hit hard. My fault. All of it. But I'm glad you're here. Shining. A beat. Then, Nate's a lucky guy. I nodded. The admission a bridge burned clean. Yeah. He is. Nate and I slipped out early, hailing a cab to his hotel in the village. The night air thick with possibility. In the dim bar off the lobby, leather booths, jazz crooning low, he laid it bare over old fashions. I get it. The pull of the past. Hell, I've been there. His story unfolded. Ex-husband's affair with a co-star. The wreckage of trust rebuilt in therapy and time. But you chose me. In the cab. Prove it now. I did, words first. Vows of transparency. Then touch. Slow and sure in his room. The city skyline a silent witness. Dawn found us tangled. His heartbeat steady under my palm. The fracture mending into something stronger. Fall brought harvest. Festival circuit whirlwind. Toronto cheers. Berlin bears. Domestic deals landing a Hulu limited series greenlight. Nate relocated halftime to Brooklyn. Our lives interleaving like crossfades. His doc pitches syncing with my directs. Shared hikes in Prospect Park where indie chased squirrels. Dinners at home with scripts and stir-fry. Kevin faded to acquaintance, holiday cards, mutual friend brunches, his new series a hit. Rumors of a steady boyfriend in LA swirling like old news. But human endings demand nuance, not neat bows. One crisp November eve, a year to the Shatter's Day, I found myself at the Rainbow Room, solo invite to a queer filmmakers gala, the skyline unchanged, jazz lilting soft. Ghosts lingered in the marble, echoes of flutes and finality, but I raised a glass to the room's ghosts, to the man I'd been. Kevin appeared mid-toast, tux sharp, arm linked with a lithe actor type, dark curls, easy grin. "Brian," he said, surprise softening to warmth. "Fancy that." We talked, surface, sincere, his apologies deeper, my forgiveness complete. "You were my first real love," he admitted, his date nodding supportive. "Taught me what not to repeat." Laughter bridged the gap. A chapter closed with clinks and cheek kisses. Outside, Nate waited curbside, scarf loose against the chill, his smile the frame I chose. "Good?" he asked, hand finding mine. "Yeah," I said, meaning it. "All good." We walked to the train, leaves crunching underfoot, the city our canvas, flawed, fierce, full of light. In the end, walking away wasn't defeat, it was direction. From the proposal's promise to the public's pain, through relapses and redemptions, I learned love's not a single take. It's the edit, the courage to cut what dims, splice what illuminates. Kevin was my origin, Nate my horizon, but me, I was the director all along, scripting a life American as apple pie and rainbow flags. Dramatic, emotional, romantic to the core, human in its mess. And as the credits roll on this chapter, the screen fades not to black, but to the glow of what's next, endless, unspooled. Ours. Epilogue whispers, 2 years on. The Hulu series drops to Emmy's buzz. Nate and I exchange vows in a Vineyard Haven sunset. His family's blessing. My Ohio kin toasting with pie. Indy's a diva aunt to their rescue pup. Script stack on our Weehawken brownstone's desk. Betrayal? A scar. Faded. A story told that heals others. Because in the grand American real, where boys love boys under big skies, chase dreams through concrete jungles, and rise from ashes, we all walk away, eventually, toward the light we frame ourselves.